The story of the Nobel Peace Prize. It was a quiet evening in the village. The sky was painted orange as the sun went down. Grandfather sat in his old wooden chair near the small fire in the yard. His 3 grandchildren, Arav, Mena and Raju, sat close, their eyes shining in the firelight. "Grandpa," Arav asked softly, "why do people talk so much about the Nobel Peace Prize? What is it really?" Grandfather smiled. His wrinkled face glowed in the firelight. "Ah, the Nobel Peace Prize," he said. "That is a story worth telling." He leaned back and began. Many years ago, there was a man named Alfred Nobel. He was a brilliant scientist and inventor from Sweden. He discovered a powerful material called dynamite, something that could break mountains and help build roads and tunnels. The children's eyes widened, but Grandfather continued, people also used dynamite for war and destruction. When Alfred Nobel saw his invention being used to harm people, he felt deep regret. Mena frowned. "So what did he do, Grandpa?" Grandfather's voice softened. One day Alfred read a newspaper that mistakenly published his death notice. It called him the Merchant of Death. It broke his heart. He didn't want the world to remember him for destruction. So, before he died, he made a decision. He would use his fortune to reward those who worked for peace, science, and humanity, Raju whispered. That's how the Nobel Peace Prize started. Grandfather nodded. "Yes, my child." The first Nobel Prizes were given in 1901 after his death. Since then, the Nobel Peace Prize has been given every year to people who dedicate their lives to peace. People who help others, reduce war, fight injustice, and spread kindness. He paused, stirring the fire with a stick. Sparks flew up like tiny stars. "Do you know who some of the winners were?" he asked. The children shook their heads. "Mother Teresa," Grandfather said proudly. "She cared for the poor and sick." Martin Luther King Jr. fought for equality with love, not violence. And Malala Yousafzai, a young girl like you, Mina, stood up for girls' right to education, even after being attacked. Mina's eyes widened. She was so brave. Yes, Grandfather smiled, and all of them had one thing in common. They chose peace over anger, courage over fear, and kindness over hate. The fire crackled softly. The children sat quietly, thinking. Then Arav asked Dadaji, "Do you think we can ever win a Nobel Peace Prize?" Grandfather chuckled gently. "You don't need a medal to be peaceful, my boy. Every time you choose to forgive instead of fight, help instead of hurt, you make the world a little better." That is the spirit of the Nobel Peace Prize. He looked up at the night sky where the first stars had begun to appear. "Remember," he said, "peace doesn't start in big speeches or great awards. It starts right here in our hearts, our homes, and our actions." The children leaned against him, feeling the warmth of the fire and his words. And as the night grew quiet, the old man's voice whispered like the wind, "Be kind, my children, and the world will remember you, not for what you take, but for what you give." Moral: Peace begins with small acts of kindness, understanding, and courage. You don't need a prize to make the world better. You just need a peaceful heart.